Hi, and good evening to Equine Voices interview. My name's Ronnie from Equine Voices, and tonight we have Bern Easterford, who is a Masterson method practitioner. He also works with Emmett for horses and acupoint therapy, but he has many, many, many more skills. So I'm going to let Bern explain how he got into horses, what he did prior to horses, and what drew him to working with these different modules, different methods. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Bern.
Hiya.
Hello, Bern,
Hello.
and welcome. Welcome. I'm just going to say to the viewers, first of all, that when I first asked you to do this, that you politely declined because you said you don't think it's you. And then, was it a Linda Tasker prompted you to do this interview?
So, do you want me to?
Yeah, you go ahead. So if you explain, so just introduce yourself first and just say what it is that you actually do in a little bit more detail, and then we'll talk about how you got into horses in the first place and why you decided to work with them.
Okay, so I'm Bern, and I'm essentially an equine bodyworker. So I massage horses, or actually try and make them more comfortable, and release their muscles, and re-energize their nervous system, um, and just generally try to make them feel a lot better than they were feeling earlier. Uh, Okay, how I got into horses. I've been a body worker for 8 to 9 years, and I'm certified in Masterson method and Emmett for horses, and I've done or completed April Battles Skeletal Unwinding, um, completed acupressure, an acupressure course, and I've just been given approval uh, for McLaughlin scar scar release, scar tissue release on horse. Um, so it's all sorts of good stuff. Um, yeah,
who's
sorry about that.
who's sat in the background?
It's Scout the dog. uh, so what can I tell you about? How I got into horses,
Yes.
or how I got into bodywork, which is two different things.
So you have horses before you started doing working with them?
The answer to that one is I got into horses quite late in life. Hadn't got a horse, uh, but a friend at work when I was working those days said, "Come along to the stables and ride with me." So I did, and I liked it a lot. And then just rode off and on for a couple of years. And then when Nicola and I got together, uh, we went down to Wales, I think it was, and she had never ridden a horse before and wanted to ride. So we went along to this farmhouse, but there's a Welsh farmer with a couple of horses, and he took us onto the beach, and I was okay. Nicola was screaming, um, and she came back and said, "Oh, I'd really like to ride more horses." So we went and had some lessons and stuff like that, and went on holiday to Ireland. Nick went by herself on one occasion, then I went with her, and we did a bit of jumping. No, before that, actually, I was on the phone. I used to work in computers, designing computer systems and developing them, and I got stuck on the telephone during the holiday. And afterwards, I went to meet Nicola, and she rushed up to me in tears, saying, "I love this horse. I want this horse." So that's when we acquired a first horse. That was Autumn, who was an Irish draft cross and a really lovely girl. Couldn't ask for a nicer horse. Um, but that story had a sort of happy ending in that we got Autumn, but there was a bit of a mishap in between because Nick had a jumping lesson on Autumn, and I was also jumping on a much bigger boy. And Nick said to me, "Would you like to just try Autumn over the jumps, just to make sure everything's okay?" So we swapped horses, and I went over the jumps quite nicely. But because the horse that I'd been riding, that Nicola was now riding, was about just a hand and a half bigger than Autumn. So when she went to do the jump, she mistimed it completely and sat down as this other horse's back came up, and it dumped her, and she fell on her tailbone.
Oh
So
no.
she was in absolute agony. And the next day, we had a plan to go and ride out on the beach. And she wanted to try Autumn on the road. So she rode the entire ride in half seat because she couldn't sit down.
God. Oh dear.
But we decided that as Autumn was so good and well behaved and let her do that, then we'd buy her. And I had to go and see the owner of the stables, who was a bluff Irishman. And he made me go into the parlour and sit down. And it was like asking for Nicola's hand in marriage all over again, sort of thing. Um, but it was great and wonderful. And we brought her back to England. And uh, so there we had Nick with a horse and me without a horse. And a couple of years later, well, a year later, it was decided that I could have a horse. So I got my boy Yolo, and we were like that for a while, which was good. Um, so that's how basically I got into riding. And we did some distance riding for a while. So once a fortnight, we did a ride, which was maybe between 12 and 20 miles. In
That's
all
quite
sorts
a
of
fair way. That's a way to go, isn't it?
yes, and at a fair pace too. So it was almost, it was like proper endurance competitions, except we were riding in a club and it was practice for endurance competitions. So we were all very competitive and riding to times, and it was all very serious but very good fun. Um, so where did we go from there?
I remember. I think I remember you telling me. I vaguely, when you started saying this story, I remember vaguely remember that now. Um, yeah, I do. So you had the horses,
Yeah.
and then so what made you decide? Because Masterson was the first. Um,
Well, it actually wasn't the first experience of
okay.
working with horses. Um, Nick's horse Autumn, that we brought back from Ireland, uh, basically um, had DJD of the coffin joint, and the vet came out and said, "Oh, she'll only ever ride in a straight line on soft ground." And that's when we actually took her shoes off. We did a lot of research on the internet in those days, and we decided to go the other route, which was to take the shoes off and rehab her, which we did, and she came really good because she was then doing endurance and uh, getting first and second prize or places in local dressage tests. So that worked really well. Um, but uh, she started tripping a bit, and we decided to retire her. And we had her tested for all sorts because she wasn't quite right, and she developed Cushing's. Um, Now that was I kind of got very close to Autumn because
Yes.
with the Cushing's, she developed a lot of abscesses in the feet, and on one occasion, she got an abscess in the left fore and an abscess in the left hind at the same time.
Oh, bless her.
That was quite a struggle, um, and I kind of said to her, "Okay, I'm with you, and I'll be with you through to the end." But during this period when she was well, yeah, when she had Cushing's and slightly before, we had uh, a chartered physio come and work with the horses. And she was very open minded and had been to Japan and studied in Japan. Um, one of the sort of, uh, if you like, energy type massage techniques. And uh, I was interested in watching her, and she showed me a few moves. And I said to Lorna, I'd really like to be able to do this. And she said, well, I'll teach you. So I had a year's one on one tuition with a chartered physio, which was absolutely brilliant. And I really loved it.
That's amazing. It's not, and
Uh,
that's an opportunity that doesn't always come along.
no, no. And she's extremely, she's a very, very good physio, human as well as horses. Um, and I said, I really like doing this, but I'm stuck because I can only do this on our horses. Can't do it on anyone else's horses. And she said, well, I'll teach you and maybe we'll um, construct a training course. Uh, but in the end, she was always so busy that she never got round to it. So I needed to do something because I now wanted to work with horses because I could see the results and the reactions of the horses.
Mm.
So that's when I started looking on the internet. Stop me if I'm being incredibly boring.
No, you're not. No, I'm just writing little notes so I can ask you questions as we go along, Bern. So I don't want to interrupt you. You go ahead.
So I started looking on the internet for what I could do in terms of a massage therapy and came across some pretty weird sites where it was like joining the moonies. It was, you know, come and join people with a like-mindedness and some pretty weird stuff going on. And I thought, no, I can't do this. And then by chance, I happened upon the Masterson site, and Jim is a pretty normal guy, and there was nothing sort of spooky or quasi religious about it.
That's a bonus.
Yep, absolutely. So I went along to the standard weekend, thought this is good, and quite liked it, and liked the reactions of the horses, and particularly liked how straightforward it seemed. So decided to go down the certification route, um, which was quite hard because I had the world's best mentor, um, Diane, and she was so hard it was untrue. I sent a case study to her, and she was in Switzerland, and she would send me my case study back with all sorts of red lines through it and questions, and it was, have you looked at this on the internet? Have you looked up this word? Whatever. What would you do in these situations? And it was brilliant because it was really tough, and I was so scared of her. But it taught me a lot.
They're
And
usually the best teachers, aren't they? The ones that push you.
let's scare you to
Um,
death. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure about scare you to death. I'm not sure that's the best thing, but yeah, the ones that make stretch you, make you think more, and look into it a bit deeper. So they're scratching, not just scratching the surface. So you're working for it. Yeah, they can be the best teachers, but not scary, not too scary.
So I certified as a Masterson practitioner and worked primarily in Masterson for a long time, actually. But during that time, um, I happened upon a lady called April Battles, who now on Facebook is April Love.
Really? She changed the name.
She did.
Oh,
On
okay.
Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and what attracted me to April was that she really focuses on posture rather than conformation. A lot of people look at a horse and say it's got bad conformation, whereas in fact, that horse has just got bad posture. So you can use various techniques to realign the posture of the horse. And what was thought to be bad conformation is actually not. Um, and she's actually a very lovely lady, because if I see one of her posts and share it across to my Facebook page, bless her, she actually drops me a line and says, "Thank you for sharing, Bern. That's really nice of you."
Oh,
There aren't many people that do that. Not many, like, professional.
yes, yeah, big, yeah,
Yeah.
well-known people. Yeah.
And she has lots of very useful techniques and very unusual techniques. So I would recommend that people should actually look her up and look at her. She's got lots of YouTube videos.
Mm.
So that was
Yeah,
great.
I've seen some of her videos, and I'm because we met when you was doing your training, some of your training down at Sam's,
Yeah.
my dear friend Sam, where I keep my horse, and you did some practice on toots, which I so that's how we first met, and then you had a weekend. I don't know how many years later that was with Jean Whitbread, and she did a sacral taster, didn't she, or a weekend or a day? I can't remember now. So we came. Was it a
2 days.
week?
It was two
Was it
days.
2 days?
Yeah.
Um, so we met, or I met Jean and came down to see you and Nick. And I remember Nicola's cooking is amazing. And that still stays with me years later. Her cooking was like, oh, wow, it's just, it's right up there.
I'll tell her that. She'll be very, very pleased.
Yeah, it was lovely. And Jane, yeah, Jane McLeod, who was on the same weekend. We're back in touch, and yeah, but it's funny how things go around, because I didn't know her before then, but we sort of said hello on Facebook, and we've just got in touch. I think synchronicities. We both needed some support for lots of reasons, and we just got in touch with each other, and we've just been a boost. We've been pushing each other, which is brilliant. So it's because of her actually and other people that I'm doing this, because she pushed me to get out and say what I do, and stop hiding about it. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't hide to my clients, but to just stop hiding. Yeah, that's another subject. Anyway, so getting back to the Masterson. So you
Oh, I
did the
was just going to
Masterson.
say, in that vein,
Yes.
um, I bumped in to Jean
Oh, yes.
uh, on the sort of final module of my Emmett for horses,
Ah,
because Jean had done Emmett for horses and she was just doing a refresher day.
yes.
And yeah, she walked in and I said, "Hello, Jean," and gave her a hug.
Oh,
And
she's
my
so
instructor,
nice.
Tony, said, "You know everyone, Bern, don't you?"
The horse world is a small world,
It is a
even
small world.
to the point of the other side of the world. I've discovered, and it's quite a small world. So you got so okay. So now you're a qualified
Hmm?
masters in method practitioner, and
Yeah.
then you did started to do Emmet.
No, well, before that, I did, as I say, the Skeletal Unwinding, the April Battles course.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Enjoyed that. Uh, except actually, that was an interesting thing, because um, during that course, that's the first and only time ever that I've been upset working on a horse. And I physically felt sick as I approached this horse. And subsequently, um, we believed that horse had got a broken leg.
Oh.
But that's the only time I've actually felt physically really bad. And that was before I laid hands on the horse.
Hmm.
It was just the vibe coming off.
Hmm.
Moving swiftly on.
No, you don't have to move swiftly anywhere, Ben. Just carry on talk. That's lovely. It's
So
good.
after that, um, yeah, I wanted to do something. Okay, with Masterson, you lay hands on and you do the bladder meridian, and you're placing your hands in appropriate positions. But I always felt that actually I could have just laid my hands on the horse in a lot of places and got a reaction.
Hmm.
Okay? And Nicola will go and stand next to a horse and put a hand on the horse, and the horse will release and whatever. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit more focused in terms of my movements. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Um,
So you wanted to, by that,
I
do you mean
wanted
you
more
wanted
medical.
more? Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. So you wanted to know a bit more about what was happening, the reasons. Is that what you mean?
Uh,
Relating to the physical body.
kind of. Um, I Many years ago, I did Aikido as a martial art.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're working with pressure points and nerve centers and whatever. And if you get it wrong, it's disastrous because you get beaten to a pulp. So you have to be accurate in where you're going. Okay, so I wanted a degree of accuracy in terms of where I was placing my hands on a
Right.
horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was interested in traditional Chinese medicine and thought, well, I kind of like to do acupuncture, but you can't do acupuncture in this country on horses unless you're a qualified vet.
Really, I never knew that. I didn't realize that.
You can do acupuncture on humans without any qualifications.
How bizarre.
So the next best thing was to do a course of acupressure for horses,
Mm-hmm.
and did a course at a business called Joe Rose, um, Equine something or other, and a lady called Lucy Yeomans um, taught me um, the basics of acupressure, and also onto an advanced course on that. Um, and that I still use bits and pieces of that now when I'm working with horses, because it was interesting to know which points on the meridians affected which organs and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Uh, so I sort of settled with that on that for a few more years. And in the last, I don't know, a year or so, 18 months, 2 years, 18 months, um, I was getting sort of itchy feet again and wanting to learn something else, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to learn. Um, and did, I looked at, uh, what's the word I want? Uh, Sort of stress point therapies, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in looking at that, I happened across upon Emmett for horses, and thought, well, I can go along to a taster day here, or to a 1 day course or a 2 day course, can't remember now, um, and just see what it's about. Uh, so I wandered along, and I'm quite skeptical about things. That's a good word, because I like to know that things work rather than just seeing releases.
Mm-hmm. And
So
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everybody's different, and
yeah,
that's not a negative. It's a positive because that's how your mind works and that's how you work. So there's nothing wrong with that at all.
so I went along, and Emmett's quite interesting because in all of the modules or all of the practicals, you're taught 2 human and say 8 horse moves. And the philosophy behind that is most of the problems with the horses are caused by imbalances in the rider. So if you can correct the rider's balance and muscular alignment, then you're doing the horse a great service.
Mm-hmm.
So in the session that I was having with Tony, we got to do a human move, and he said, "Grip my hand," and I did, and he said, "Is that all you've got?" Because my grip is not very good because I've got osteoarthritis in the hands, and I said, "Yeah, that's all I can do." He said, "Don't worry, I can fix that." So he then treated me for about 5 minutes. And at the end of the 5 minutes, I was able to make a fist with both hands, which I hadn't been able to do for about 3 years.
Wow.
So I kind of thought, there's got to be something to this, because if I feel better after the treatment and it's
Yes.
actually improved the state of my hands, then maybe it's doing the same thing for the horses.
So you felt the benefit. You felt the benefit, and you
Absolutely.
saw the benefit.
Yeah.
Mm.
And unless I've been hypnotized or whatever, I kind of figured it was real. Um, and we went outside actually to treat some horses, and there was a guy there that had dislocated his shoulder and had had physio for 2 or 3 weeks with no improvement, and could only raise his arm up to his shoulder level.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony went, "Oh, I can fix that as well," and did a couple of quick moves, and the guy could raise his arm up above his head, basically. I thought, yeah, there must be something to this. If you can just pick up random people and sort their problems, then there's got to be something to it after all for the horses.
So that grabbed your attention big time.
It did. And so I then did the certification course and certified. Oh, I don't know. It's got to be somewhere between a year and 2 years ago, something like that. And all this time that I was training in Emmett, uh, which was a very, very, it was very friendly and very relaxed, and we focused on the horses who actually responded incredibly well. But I always said uh, I really like working with horses, but I don't think I'd want to work with people, because when you look at horses, what you see is what you get, basically. Um, but with people, they carry quite a lot of baggage.
Oh yeah, we all do.
I thought, no, I don't want to touch people. Uh, but over the course of certifying for horses and doing the human moves in each module as part of it, I began to think, actually, I quite like doing this. And I got to practice on a few neighbours and friends, um, and the results seemed to be very good. And so, uh, various people that I met doing Emmett and were instructing me and whatever convinced me that I should do the Emmett for People, the MTech course. So I'm now halfway through MTech and uh, not changing my allegiance from horses to people, but just expanding it.
So that'll be brilliant. So if you go to see a client in their horse, you can use that skill and say, well, actually, if I can have a little, if it's okay with you, if I just have a little quick look at you,
Yeah.
and then you could sort of help them out and explain and point a few pointers out. And then if they say, oh, I'm interested, then you've got 2 clients for the price of 1. So that's good for both concerned, because the horse will be very pleased that you've done that for the human, and the human will be very pleased that you've done that for the horse. And they'll be both hopefully in a similar place, which will be, I mean, that's a lovely place to start with somebody.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's actually quite hard work for me working with people
I think
because
you find that most, yeah, it,
no, not the
yeah.
mental side, but it's actually the physical side.
Ah, okay.
I can find my way around a horse because I've been used to pummeling horses' bodies and where their bones are and
You
whatever.
can't poke a human in the bottom
Yeah,
unless you want to slap in the face.
and their bones are in different places.
Yes.
Finding my way around a human body is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So I've just
Yeah.
bought myself a half a skeleton. So
Oh,
yeah, like half-size skeleton.
so I wonder what's happened to the other half, Bern.
But yeah, I'm enjoying that. And the
Oh, brilliant.
latest, sorry.
No, that's brilliant. I'm just gonna. So we've had Martha said hello, so I don't know if she's still watching, and
Hey.
then she's saying hi,
Yeah.
and somebody from Facebook. So if anybody makes a comment from Facebook, we don't get to know who it is unless they click on the link I'm using StreamYard, because they just have to give permission to StreamYard to post their photograph. If they go straight to the YouTube channel, Equine Voices UK YouTube channel, they can comment and we can get to see who they are. But so don't know who that is, but thank you so much for your comments. Totally agree with you, Bern. That's what they were saying.
Is that I talk too much?
No, when you was talking earlier, that's been on there a couple of. Bern, you don't talk too much. You have to talk to get your. Oh, it's Sam. Sam's watching.
Oh, hiya,
It's
Sam.
Sam. Hi, Sam. Sam, you need to click. No, it doesn't matter. Don't worry. We know who it is now. So that's Sam. So okay. So where was we? So you're
Well,
doing
the last
humans.
thing that I've just done, the latest
Mm,
thing, is McLaughlin uh, scar tissue
scar tissue.
release on horses,
Okay.
which is also very interesting.
And you just qualified in that, haven't you? Did I say?
Yes, as of
Well done.
2 days ago.
Congratulations.
As of two
Yay.
days ago, so I'm really pleased.
Yay. Well
Yeah,
deserved.
thank you. But the ultimate aim, you see, is assuming I qualify on humans with Emmett, is then to do scar tissue release on humans,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting stuff. In that, apart from the scar tissue, can cause all sorts of problems, um, physically and mentally.
Mhm.
So, being able to release the scar tissue can do all sorts of things, including literally release pent up emotions that people have been carrying around that goes with the scars. Um, Also, you can minimize, or not minimize, improve the appearance of a scar by up to 20%. So you can
Which is
actually,
pretty good.
well, yeah, you can do a lot for people's self esteem as well.
Mm.
So it's a nice thing to do. But that lies in the future because I've got to qualify on people, on bodies first before I can do scar tissue on
I've no
horses.
doubt that you will, Burn, because when you set out to do something, you put your heart and soul into it, and your determination. And I don't think that we're led down these certain avenues for no reason. So if that's something that drew you to it, then I'm positive that the rest will come.
Except that I'm finding it so much harder to study now that I'm older.
Yeah, but remember what you said. If it's harder, it's yeah,
Yeah, but
it's
I can't
worth
remember
doing.
yesterday.
Neither can I. So, with all these different qualifications, um, do you incorporate them together? So when you're working, would you? So you went. Somebody rang you, said, "Oh, Bern, can you come and see my horse, please?" And you go along, and you approach the horse. And what's in your mindset when you approach the horse? Have you got an idea of what you're going to do, or is it you see the horse and you think, okay, that's going to suit that, but and we'll try a little bit of this as well, or do you have like a routine where you have a set plan of what you're going to use?
Um, what goes through my mind when I visit a horse? The answer is very little, nothing. It's like doing an MOT. You know, despite what people might tell you is wrong with their horse, you don't know until you actually look at and touch the horse.
Mhm.
And as a body worker, my function in life is not to diagnose, but to make the horse as comfortable as I can on that day. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the horse that I treat is the horse that's there in front of me on that day.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was working with some lovely horses uh, 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. um, and um, because I'd not met at least, well, I'd not met uh, one horse and a Shetland ever before, and sometimes horses can be a bit nervous. I tend to use Emmett moves to start with. Emmett moves are, if you like, neurological. They tend to um, reinvigorate nerves, the nervous system,
Mhm.
and they're very good for pain relief, and they're very, very soft touch. I use Masterson a lot for mobilization, yeah, to extend the range of movement, things like that, and to make the movement more free. But when I'm dealing with a horse for the first time, I like to introduce myself to the horse and let the horse feel comfortable and relaxed with me. So, very soft techniques which actually ease pain, um, reduce tension, and just very quietly let you create a rapport with the horse. As I say, I tend to like the Emmett moves for that. And then when I want to actually change a horse's, not change, but improve a horse's performance or way of going, that's when I tend to introduce more of the Masterson. Now, sometimes, case in point was on Tuesday, um, I actually added in some acupressure down at the ting points in the hooves because I knew that they would affect the whole system of the horse without interfering, or yeah, without interfering with that horse in terms of um, touching places on the body that
Yeah.
might be sore or tense. I could work around the coronet band and achieve the same result.
Yeah, because it's very important to get. It's like anything, like people. If they're extra tense or extra nervous, then it makes your job harder to try and
Yeah,
to sort of get past that. So whatever you can do to achieve relaxation in any form, um, that's the start of it, isn't it? And then you can start going to work on things. So
the little
you're
Shetland, the little Shetland I worked with on Tuesday, um, was actually very good. When I saw him, he like responded to me quite quickly,
yeah.
but was carrying a lot of tension, and then lay down, went to sleep, head on the ground for about 2.5 hours.
I think you did your job there, but
Yeah, so but yeah, I tend to use a whole variety of techniques,
yeah.
and mix and match as well. Sometimes horses prefer one set of moves to another set of moves, and to be honest, I don't think there is one special supreme discipline. Most of these things, if you look, all tend to center around the areas of points on meridians. So they all sort of hark back to what would be traditional Chinese medicine.
Yes, and yeah.
So, I mean, basically, the disciplines are pretty much all the same, but just different ways of doing the same thing around the same areas.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the time, it's what works best with that horse, and what that horse is more prepared to engage with.
And I suppose that's where so when you learn a new skill, you learn it and you have a qualification, but it's the going out and doing it is the real learning, because you're learning what that feel is, what that movement is. And like you said, each person, each animal may react slightly different to whatever you're applying. So you get to have like a little map in your own mind of, okay, I acknowledge that, I know, okay. So the next time you try that, if a similar thing happens, you know how to work with it or try something else. So you start to develop your own more deeper understanding and more self-aware skills, don't you? As you're practicing, as you're going out and practice. That's why they call it practice. Although you're qualified, you're practicing on your clients and your animals, and it's that gives you the biggest feedback and the biggest understanding, and then the end results, i.e. the Shetland falling asleep for 2 hours, that that you've done what was needed.
I think,
and you've got your mind, you like to know why and how. You're more into that, whereas my mind, it doesn't really matter. If you can receive a result and there's it's there in front of you and you feel it, then you know that person's working.
Now, I'll sort of rephrase something here. The liking to know how it works and why it works is to do with the training.
Yes.
When you're working with a horse, it's whatever works.
Whatever works.
You're going along.
If you've got a carrot in your pocket and that works, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Fruit tea bags in your pocket really attract horses.
I've never tried that.
I remember this goes back to when I was doing a martial art, and one of the sensei, the teachers, was in the dojo, and he got sort of 4 16-stone men to hang on to his arm, and he skipped down the gym with them. Like literally, he skipped and they were being dragged along. And he said to me afterwards, "What do you think that was, Bern? Do you think that was mind over matter? Do you think it was physical attributes? Do you think it was magic?" And I said, "I don't know really." He said, "Well, it doesn't matter. If it works, it doesn't matter what you believe."
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I guess I am with working with horses. That I've got a library of moves to do for various things, but actually when you get there and you touch them, that's what decides it for you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And it's also early on you said to me, what's in your mind when you're working with a horse? And the answer really is nothing. Because number one, I'm trying to keep my adrenaline as low as possible, and actually focusing on that horse in the moment, to work with that horse and read that horse's language, body language and reactions. So really my mind isn't thinking, oh, I should now do this move or I should now do that move. It's the moves follow on as a natural consequence of what you're doing and what you're feeling.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
No, you're not talking too much at all. Don't be silly. I don't know if this is still Sam. So if it is Sam, she said hello. So I'm not sure, but it might be Sam. No, I totally. It's quite funny because when I first used to, so I've got a horse. Obviously, I've got a horse, but I'm not what you call. I've never been somebody that can just go out, tack a horse up and go on any horse. I have to know them a little bit and sort of trust them. Once I'm, used to be that once I'm on the back, then it was like, oh, well, I'm on the back, I want to stay there now, so just get on with it. So when I used to go out to clients, it's almost like there's a switch that flips, and I go into a different mode, and it's automatic. I don't think about it at all now, and I go in, and it's just whatever comes, and I go with whatever comes. So similar to you, but I'm doing the communication, and you're doing the physical. But you are actually tapping into your own intuitive, whether you realize that or not, and it's not like chatter. You're following your gut.
Yeah.
You're following your instinct, because it's instinctual. It's there. So yeah, so I totally get that. And then when you come out, I go back into Ronnie mode. But while I'm with the horses, it's hard to explain sometimes, but it is different. Now it's not with my own. Again, I'm a Toots is I care for her and I love her to bits, and that's a different relationship. Although I still can communicate with her, but it is different. There's more emotions involved. Not as much as I used to be. I've sort of managed to, I can be detached now, because I've had to learn to be detached, which is good.
I find it really hard working with our horses.
Yeah.
Basically because they know me. So they know all my faults and whatever.
Yes.
And they know how bad a mood I'm in on the day and stuff like that. Working with other people's horses, you really do become very, very detached. Yeah.
Yes.
So that you can make that connection.
Yeah.
But working with our horses here, because I'm thinking I need to go and do that job, or I need to go and do this job, or there's this bill that's come in, or something hasn't arrived, or
Too
whatever.
much
There's all
chatter.
these distractions going on. Working with other people's horses, because you've made a definite time, place to work with this horse, then your whole focus is on this particular horse. In
Yes.
fact, if sometimes Nicola will actually send me an email and make an appointment for me to work with the horses.
That's quite funny. I think that's normal, Bern. I'm sure it is. I'm sure Sam would say the same thing. She squeezes them in between everything else. Bless her.
Absolutely.
She has such a busy life. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I've had situations when I've been to see clients, and I never know what it is until I get there, and especially if it's something like they're wanting to, it's time to say goodbye, and they just want to know if they're doing the right thing, or something like that. I don't know, but I have a feeling like I can put the radio on and there'll be a song, and it's like, okay, it's just, I can't explain what it is, but there's just a feeling, and I get little clues. And then when I get there, sometimes it's out of the blue. I can go. I saw one client, and she was talking about what she'd been doing and her hopes. And I was thinking, okay, I'm not sure why I'm here. So I was relaying the information that I was getting. And I kept thinking, there's something not quite clicking here. I don't know what it is. And then as I talked to the lady, she's a lovely lady, bless her. She just said something, and I went, okay, now I get it. And I won't go into details because it's personal, but she was guided by the vet to make a decision, and she was saying all the things why she what she was hoping for, and she just wanted confirmation that, and I didn't know about anything about what the vet had said, that what was needed was needed. And so as soon as she sort of says something, I said, okay, and I passed on the rest of the message, and then that was it. It was okay. I know what I need to do now. But up to then, I was thinking, well, what I'm getting and what she's saying is not quite, it doesn't tally. But as soon as she said the next bit, I thought, now it tallies. Now I understand. But and there's no, if I say there's no emotion, there is empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
But it's not that. But when I first used to start, I would get such emotion because I was told that if you're going to give me this, I need to be absolutely sure this is what you're relaying to me. So give me in feelings, and they would bam. straight to the heart, and this emotion would come out, and I would know that that's what they're relaying. Whereas it's not quite as it doesn't have to be that way now, but I needed that to understand for sure. I needed to tell my brain, no, this is right. Stop, stop telling me it's not. This is what I'm getting, it's right. And it's about trusting that, because what your head tells you is not always what your intuitive guidance is telling you. I've gone off on a tangent there.
No, because when I was being taught by the chartered physio, um, she did try and teach me to start with a thing called visceral listening, which is where you place your hands on a horse and you go wherever your hands are attracted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't do a move. What you do is you go with your gut instinct
Yeah.
to go to that place that needs treatment. And I was rubbish at it, but I think it takes a long
May,
time practicing. But
maybe because your head was trying to, you, if that tries to take over it, then it's very difficult. You've almost got to detach that from
yeah,
the rest of you. Yeah.
these days I'm a lot better.
Yeah, because if I'm
It's
chatting, if I'm with a client and I'm chatting, talking to them, I'll be stroking the horse and talking to the client, and then I'm very much aware that my hand, it's almost like my attention is going into my hand, and I'll stop wherever, and I'll just say to the client, I just need to stay here for a moment, and I'll do whatever, I'll keep my hands there for whatever. And then sometimes the horse will relax and, drop the head. And the owners, I'll say, I'm really sorry, but this bit's boring. And they'll go, no, I can see what's going on. So, and then once the horse has had enough of they'll move away, or my hand, almost like a magnet, it just pulls off. It's like, that's enough. And then I'll...
on that one. Just interrupting, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I often say to clients, I'm really sorry, this must be really boring for you, because a session can last between an hour and 2 hours. And they all tell me that it isn't boring at all because they're watching their horse's reactions and they're actually taking the time to look at the subtle reactions that there are.
Yeah.
Like everybody else, you don't stop to look. You just get on with what you're doing. Is that Sam again?
I don't know. I don't think so, because one of us mentioned Sam.
Sam.
It's not me. So I'm just going to say to anybody that's watching this, if you're watching through Facebook, you have to give StreamYard permission to post your profile picture. Otherwise, they can't post it. So it's just a comment without a name. If you're looking through Equine Voices, which this is me, if I made a comment earlier. So if I go onto Equine Voices UK YouTube channel, then you can comment straight away. And this shouldn't be the same thing, but it doesn't matter, because I think we get to find anybody that watches this on replay will get to find out who they are, because it will show then. So don't worry.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's some interesting things. I talk about having very low adrenaline, and no names here, but I was talking to a young lady on one occasion who had been working with horses but wasn't having very good results. The horses were kind of backing off or being aggressive towards her. And we were talking about it, and she said, every time I go into a horse, I just have a couple of Red Bulls before I go in. So she's like supercharged with energy.
No wonder.
Yes. So.
Oh, no wonder. So getting back to your horses. So autumn was a big push for you to start.
Big influence.
Yeah, and that was.
I kind of. This is the sad bit. I kind of promised her that I'd be with her to the end because she wasn't well.
Yeah.
And I actually had gone away for a weekend to Gillian Higgins conference. Gillian Higgins?
Yep.
Yeah. And Meanwhile, what I didn't know was that Autumn had some kind of fit at home, and it was possibly colic, um, and she'd had to be put to sleep. And Nicola, bless her, was with her the whole time, but she didn't contact me at the conference. I mean, she did. She spoke to me, but she didn't tell me about Autumn
Yeah.
because she didn't want me to get upset at the conference, which would have been really lovely, other than a friend phoned up and said, "I'm really sorry about Autumn," in the middle of the
Oh,
conference. So I kind of heard halfway through, um, and I really felt a degree of unnaturally and not um, sensibly felt really upset that I hadn't been with her, having made the promise that I would be.
yeah, but Ben, that's because you made that promise to her, and that's for
Yeah,
somebody that the way that you work, as you explained earlier in the interview, that's for you to say to her, "I'm going to be with you to the end." You made a promise, so that's a big statement to say.
yeah.
And the fact that you wasn't there, I suppose part of you would have felt that you sort of let her down, but you didn't. You
But that was a
certainly
big
didn't.
influence, you see. That
Mm,
was a big influence.
yeah,
That was one
and
of the big
be
influences that made me want to continue this.
yes, yeah. No, I totally get that. There's who. As Ronnie knows, similar experience here, Ben. Okay, so is we need to know who that is. So Sam, is that you still, Sam? So I wonder if Linda's watching, because Linda. So Linda, I didn't know that Linda knew you because she contacted me to do a distant communication. And then it was afterwards that I realised that, oh, it's Fran. Hi, Fran. It's Fran. Um,
The connection with Linda is that with, I guess, really three of our horses out the four, well, two of them in particular weren't 100% right. There's a long history of stuff with Buffy, who was
yeah.
gifted to me by a client. And she'd had glandular ulcers and recovered from those, and that's a long story anyway. Um, but she still wasn't quite right, and Nicola thought that Sylvan, who's our Dow's pony, wasn't quite right. So uh, Nick, who's very good at investigating things on diet and whatever, um, had come across the Equibiome site,
Oh,
and
yes, you said that. Yeah.
we had the horses tested to see what pathogens they got, in good and bad bacteria. And uh, Buffy and Sylvan, in particular, came back with um, Bartonella and Lyme's pathogens. And so we uh, took, well, we invested in a protocol of Chinese herbs,
Mhm.
which took about 7 months to go through different herbs for different things. And that's where we met Linda on that group, the Facebook group that was
That's
going
yeah.
through this protocol.
Okay. So tell us more about these herbs.
I was going to say,
You.
I'm not supposed to say this probably.
Okay. Don't
But,
say things that you're not supposed to say.
oh no, it's all right. I'll go on. It's too late now anyway. Um, a group of us, a select number, decided that we would follow the same protocol that the horses were on.
So you were taking horse herbs,
Yeah.
basically. Okay.
And that was quite interesting. And it, in fact, did have. We won't go into the medical things, but
Oh, please do.
oh, well, like most men of my age, I had a few waterworks problems. Too much information, huh?
No, no, no. Go. So it helps. It helps.
Yes, instead of getting up 5 times a night, it went down to about once a night or not at all. So apart from that, the horses were all a lot better anyway, which was the point of it. But again, um, that's a connection with Linda again.
Mm. Yeah, she was a lovely. Yeah, she was a lovely lady. Yeah. So that's how you guys know, right? Okay, so the so you've done Masterson method, Emmett for horses, acutherapy, and April battles. So what is your next plan? What is the next thing that you're
It's the
think
human
if there
Emmett.
is?
Completing the human Emmett
Yeah,
course to
keep
qualify
completing that back. Okay.
as a body worker on humans, on people,
Yeah.
and then ultimately, if I'm still alive and still kicking and still able to remember things, is to do scar tissue on humans.
So when you do scar tissue with the horses,
Yeah.
just explain a little bit for people that that don't know about it at all. So what is
Okay.
the protocol? So what is it that you're looking for, and how does it work?
Okay, you've got two types of scarring. You've got direct scarring and indirect scarring.
Mhm.
Direct scars are easy to see because they're anything that breaks the skin. Okay, so it can be kicks, bites, um, vets, operations.
So injections, where injections have been with scar
Could be
tissue?
injections, but yeah, anything that actually interferes with the tissue underneath. Whereas tissue should kind of like be in straight lines and mesh. Again, you get this bunching up. Now you can feel the scar tissue. You can feel it, for example, like a cord with little knots in it. Are you with me?
Yes, yeah,
Like a wire with knots in, stuff like that.
yeah.
Your indirect scarring can be, well, the most common cause of indirect scarring is badly fitted tack. So it could be a badly fitted bridle, which is causing extreme pressure and affecting the tissues underneath the bridle. It could be badly fitting rugs, it could be saddles, any of these things which are actually causing pressure and causing the fibers to, want a good word here, really,
So
to,
they
yeah,
compress, and
yeah.
yeah, and knit together.
So what you do with scar tissue release is actually open up the scarring. Yeah, so you use
Mm-hmm.
techniques to apply pressure to the scar tissue to effectively open it up and stretch it out. Yeah, and release
Yeah.
the adhesions. Now, that can have a profound effect on the way a horse moves, and it can also have a profound effect on the emotions. Uh, if I take Buffy for a moment, um, she had um, some quite heavy scarring on the front of her chest, and I used her as a case study and worked on that. Now, before working on it, if I put Buffy on a lunge, she would turn in on the lunge, um, and actually uh, not just lunge around, but she'd actually just start to lunge and immediately turn in.
Yeah.
And as you know, she could be quite emotional about things and to a degree quite aggressive about things because she has trust issues from the ulcers and all sorts of bits and pieces. But having partially released the scar tissue uh, on her chest, which probably was caused when she ran through a stable door, taking out the entire door frame. That's before I got
Yeah,
her,
that would do it.
which is a fair bit of trauma.
Yes.
but she'd been carrying all sorts of emotions with that, and having released that scar tissue on the chest, she no longer turns in, and she's actually been a lot happier in herself
Mm.
and a lot more affectionate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's so for people that are just watching this, I had a little communication with Buffy, and that's some of that came through that she's, yeah, the work that you did with her. I'm not going to go into details, but
No, no,
so what
all
you've
right.
just said was confirmed in our communication before I realised what you'd done anyway, which is good. So it confirms what you thought and what you know about Buffy. So that's
And
good.
scarring is very common. Um,
Mm.
all geldings have got scars.
Yes, of course, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a scar, I mean, obviously you won't, but I had a cesarean, so and my son is. I have to think. Hang on, now how old my son is? He over 30? And if sometimes I can still feel that scar tissue internally. Um, I know exactly where it is,
When I
and
qualify, I'll come over.
oh, Bern! There's a promise you don't get every day.
But the
um,
scar tissue is pulling everything
Well,
tight.
it is. It's tight, and you can feel it, and I know which side it is worse, where
Yeah,
the tissue is stronger and less pliable.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it has huge effects, and it's actually a tiny scar because I used to nurse, so I saw the scars when they heal, but the actual
But
part,
you
I know
know,
it goes. I know it goes further than that.
it does.
Yeah, a lot further than that. But the actual um, if you could see it, that bit is
Visible
the
scar.
visual part, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know exactly where it pulls.
But
And
the
as I'm
visual
saying
scar
that,
is affected.
it's really weird. As I'm saying that, so I'm getting communication now about my own body. As I'm saying that, I'm aware there's a sensation in my body, and I'm getting, which is it's actually going underneath and up my back,
Yeah.
which is bizarre. Not bizarre because, and I'm getting told that explains a few things that's been happening with me. Oh,
Well, if you think about a gelding, poor boy,
yes,
it's going to affect, or possibly going to affect the way that gelding moves, because the tissue surrounding the geld scar is going to be pulled tight.
yes,
So, there's quite a lot going on there. And
yeah,
also, you can get indirect scarring, which is where there's no broken skin, yeah, from just concussion. So, a horse trotting too much on a hard surface for too long
mm-hmm.
is going to have a situation where the muscles are actually getting tighter and tighter, and the muscle fibers are effectively scarring.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a lot that you know that goes on there, but um, yeah,
Do
people.
you ever do any talks, or do you go? I'm just gonna. So somebody's just asked, do you use the April battles?
Yeah, I still use some of her moves. There's a very good move from April Battles, which is first rib release. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
there aren't many. Well, I don't know of anyone else that does the first rib release, so that's worth looking at.
That's funny because I was interviewing a lady, and um, actually that's another subject. No, I'll talk about that another time. So I know who this one is. This is definitely Sam because there's only one Tinkerbell I know, and that's Sam's. So you would have to give Tinker sessions. She's a scar
That's
queen.
Sam.
Yeah, I mean when she impaled herself on the gate, Sam did an amazing job, absolutely amazing. Because that was a big hole. Did you ever see that? Did you ever
No,
see?
no.
Yeah, it was a massive. Yeah, I mean, you could get your fist in nearly, and it basically had to just douche it out, swill it out every day. She did an amazing job with Tinkerbell, and it was Yeah, it was. I think it was summertime, so you had like flies and things that could have got in there, and you know, made it a whole lot worse. But she just, yeah, she just stuck with that and did a really, really good job. But yeah, you need to come down and see Tinkerbell and do her scalp.
Yeah, you were saying as well, people don't realise that where there's a visual scar,
There's
it could be quite a large area around that
Yeah,
that's
because
affected.
you're pulling. So if it's like, you know, when you was a kid and you used to fall, I always used to be falling over. I had scabs on my knees the whole time, and when
I
they
can
get
sort your
itchy,
balance out for you as well
oh
if you
bless you, thanks, Ben. You're gonna be doing a lot of sorting. So
like.
you know, if you've got a scab and you're itching it, and then it's sorry
That's a
for
girl.
anybody that's having the tea, and you end up picking at it, it's
That's a girl
almost
thing.
it's oh, is it really? So
Yes, boys don't
it's
pick at scabs. Girls pick at scabs, and girls pick at boys' scabs.
oh no, I've never done that. I can honestly say I've never done that. But your skin would pucker in
Yeah,
and it would pull right into that core, and you would see the effects on the scab and then
yeah.
beyond there. But also underneath, if you could see flesh, there'd be the underneath bit. So I do apologise if anybody's watching this and having a tea. So yeah, it goes a lot further than you can actually see.
You know, if you want to take it to well, not extremes, but um, hot branding and freeze marks
Yeah,
are
yes,
scars.
I know. And do you know what? Toots' leg, where she has
Yeah,
a freeze mark,
yeah.
is a leg where she was having problems years ago when that first, and it was the leg that she was branded with. And I know that. Yeah,
So if you feel around that freeze mark, yeah, uh,
yes,
you may well find that the tissue around that freeze mark is either cold
yeah.
or
And
harder.
you can feel it underneath.
Yeah.
Mm. So Tracy, hi Tracy. Lovely life. Thanks, Ronnie and Bern. Really interesting.
No,
Could
it's
listen all
Tracy.
night.
I know Tracy.
Tracy Cole.
Tracy is really good. I've had a session with Tracy because I lost my confidence. She is an NLP and
I know, because
do you know Tracy?
it's funny that we sort of liked each other on Instagram and comments, and she's always been kind to my posts, and vice versa. And she did a little, I think she did on our community group a little introduction, and it was a mindset
Yeah.
about that. Beta alpha theta waves and how to recognize those. And then she said, oh, I'm gonna listen in. And I said, oh, do you know Bern? She says, yes, you come to see my horse. I was like, oh. So yeah.
Tracy
So
and
hi
I
Tracy.
Tracy and I first came across each other because we both went out to Spain to a, a holiday horse riding establishment to teach a course. I did a course on bodywork, and Tracy did one on confident riding.
I remember seeing that on your Facebook page. You went out there.
Yeah, I'll put a
Mm,
plug in for June actually. June Wolf, who owns the place, she does walk rides these days. She's got a whole load of hiya. She's got a lot of rescue horses,
right.
and she does a lot of confidence riding now. So the horses, she takes people out on walk rides more than anything else, and it's a lovely place with a hot tub and a swimming pool, and uh, it's worth a visit.
Somebody said it's a small. It certainly is a small world. It
Who's that one
definitely is. I don't know because it's
now?
no.
Probably
So
police.
let us know who you are, because we don't know who you are. Sorry, it could be Sam again. I don't know. Yes, I remember you posting because you were going to try and get out, and you was going to go out and do another. You were going to try out and go and do another one, wasn't you?
Yeah, it just didn't work in the end in terms of
Yeah,
driving and whatever.
yeah.
And since then, really, we've had like the pandemic and all sorts of bits and pieces. And
Yeah. So how is it going with work then? Since, I mean,
well, we've got a holiday cottage, and we did have shepherd's huts, so we had a holiday
yes,
business. Um, but the holiday cottage is pretty booked up now. So
I bet it will be. Do you still have your shepherd's hut?
no, um, back I don't know, back in November of last year or thereabouts. Um, Over the summer, it was great, except we could only use one shepherd's hut because of the showers.
Okay. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
and we thought October, November time. Actually, I'm knocking on in years, so I've got pensions coming in and stuff like that. And I can't really say this, can I? But we loved lockdown. We absolutely loved it. It made no difference to us at all, really,
Yeah.
because we're in a well, where we are in the back of Beyond,
Beautiful
um,
place.
and we were just enjoying the home and the horses and the
Yeah.
sheep and whatever so much, that we thought, okay, we'll sell one of the huts, and so we put one up for sale, and so did you. What,
Yeah.
enjoy lockdown?
She
Yes,
did.
that.
Yeah, because I moved in with Sam because I remember it was the night, I think I spent the weekend at Sam's because it was somebody's birthday or it was a later birthday celebration or something. So we had like a Saturday night at Sam's, and Giles had said, "We're going to get locked down. So if you're gonna stay, you best get your bags moving now because
Yeah,
that'll be it. And at least I can get to do toots and that." So I went home, packed my bags, and moved in with Sam.
brilliant.
And yes, so we were doing the same as what we always do. We just weren't, apart from going shopping, food shopping, and things like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yes,
yes, I've
no,
but yes, you've worked it out, Sam. Brilliant.
oh, right, the name. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we need to start a Facebook group, which is We Love Lockdown. But it was
uh,
it was great, and so in the space of a fortnight, I think it was, we had 5 sets of people wanting to buy the hut, um, and because we had so many people, we thought, well, we keep the cottage going, but let's think about selling both huts rather than just the one, um, because we've done it for 5 years, 6 years.
yeah. I mean, they
And
were beautiful.
thank
Absolutely
you.
beautiful. Yeah.
But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, like all the cleaning.
Mm,
COVID added 50% time
yeah.
to the cleaning time, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And there's all the admin that goes on behind the scenes that no one ever sees. And it's meeting and greeting people, people that leave London and say, we'll be with you at 5 o'clock, and they turn up at 10 o'clock because they don't realize what the traffic's going to be like, and all that kind of stuff. So we said to the people who bought the first hut, we know you've got kiddies, so would you like the other hut, which has got a bunk bed as well as a double? Um, and we'll then sell the other hut. And they went, no, can we have both, please? So they bought
Wow.
both shepherd's huts. The problem was that they're in Pembrokeshire, and it rained from November right through, and the weather was appalling. We couldn't get the huts in the fields, and they eventually got the huts in February. But yep, so they're gone.
So
Um,
they'll have this year, this summer, to enjoy them.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of miss them a bit. Um, yeah, we miss them a bit because they were named after our mums. So one
Yes.
was Doris and one was Shirley,
Yeah.
and we just actually lined one of the fields with a whole bunch of trees, and that whole row of trees is now for Shirley and Doris, so they're not forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sure they won't be forgotten anyway, Bern. Definitely
But
won't be forgotten.
with regard to the cottage, it's open currently, but next year we might just restrict it to friends, family, and people who've stayed with us before,
Yeah.
uh, and just like continue to retire.
Well, if you can do that, and that's what yeah, life's for living, and
Absolutely.
if that's what you want to do and you're able to do that, then why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Okay. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, Bern, while you're on? Is there anything? I'll tell you what. Why don't you share the experience? So you posted about a little lamb, and was it a lamb that was born that couldn't walk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to just share that little story?
Not a lot to say, really. I've got a very good friend and neighbour, Alan, who's just down the road from us. And for a farmer, he is unusually open minded. So whenever he's got an animal that's not quite right, or he's not feeling quite right, with muscular aches and pains or anything else, he'll just pop in and go, "Hey, Bern, could you fix this for me?" So, like I've worked on I worked on a calf a couple of years ago, um, that was dragged out of his mum, well, his mum actually, and he got um, malformed hind legs. They weren't right. His hind legs crossed, and he couldn't walk very well at all. Um, so I did quite a lot of work on him using Masterson and acupressure,
Mhm.
and basically he survived and went on to live for another 3 years before Alan had to dispose of him, because that's what happens,
Yeah.
uh, if you're a farmer.
Yeah.
Um, but he was called variously hippie, happy, hoppy. So that was good, and we were over there with Alan, helping him um, uh, vaccinate some sheep the other day. And he's got very old sheep, and this old girl sort of lay down and wouldn't get up, and another of our neighbours, John, was up there with us, and John and I tried to lift this sheep up, and there was no way of being able to pick her up. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll do a couple of Emmett moves on her, and I did, and she sprang up, and John was quite impressed, but Alan's used to it, so he just, oh, let's burn. And the little lamb, poor soul, couldn't walk, and we got him walking around. Um, but there's a sad ending to this,
Oh.
a very sad ending.
Oh.
Um, so he was starting to walk around,
Hmm.
as you saw in the video, um, but Alan decided to take him to the vet, and the vet went, "This is a welfare case. You've got to put the lamb down."
Oh. Okay.
And so, yeah, um, sometimes vets don't give animals long enough, especially if they're farming vets.
Yeah, because they have to follow. Well, everybody has to follow certain things, but I
Yeah,
suppose it
yeah.
is.
It was a shame, because this little lamb had the will to live,
Yeah.
um, but the thing is, I guess, that the vet was working from a commercial viewpoint.
Yeah. If it had been a family pet
Yeah,
lamb, then it would have
so
been a different
we made some
story.
progress, but
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, half an hour's worth of work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other subject, isn't it? Whole
But
other
the good news
subject.
is that my friend is a wonderfully open-minded farmer,
Yes.
because there aren't many farmers that would say, "Okay, could you come and have a look at my this, that, or the other?" Um, because you're like my only hope.
I think there's probably a few more than we realise now, because the sort of the sort of work that people are doing with animals and people now is different, and it's going in a different way. And I think it's educating people, isn't it? It's not having, you don't have to know all the answers, but be open to start looking in other directions. Because the point of call would always be, obviously that's what you have to do, and then, but that's what you'd rely on. But there's so many other things that you can incorporate with that now. Um,
Because what I would say is that Alan is really good, but then all of my clients are really good. And what I tend to do is to show people how to do various moves on their horses.
yeah,
Because my feeling is I'm here for 2 hours. You're with your horse in between any visits that I make.
yeah,
So I should teach you some basic moves that I know will help your horse. And you can do those moves while I'm not here. Now,
yeah,
people have said to me, yeah, but you spent all that money being trained. But that's not the point. The point is you're in it to make the horses more comfortable. Um,
yes, yeah,
so why would you not pass on that information? Why would you, keep it to yourself, hoard it away? That's
yeah.
just not what it's about.
No, and I know Sam does that with her clients. She'll show them certain things that they can
Yeah.
do to help, and it's nice because you're creating more of a report, and it's a joint thing. It's not somebody's coming to sort my horse. It's no, I'm coming to help your horse, but actually you can help too in doing certain things, um, and they feel involved. They feel more involved.
Well, it was
Um,
really, really nice the other day um, when I posted about the scar tissue. Um, someone who's, when I was down south, I worked with her horse a couple of times and uh, doing Masterson. And she liked it so much that she then got, I think, the Masterson book and videos and whatever. And then she signed up on uh, a massage course, a bodyworking course. Not, I don't think not Masterson. She did another course instead, but it was just doing those things and reading the book that got her into it. And she's now a qualified bodyworker and is doing a couple of other courses as well, and has got really hooked into it.
so
But I just felt it was really nice that I'd done the work, she'd liked it, loved doing
you,
it, and then got into it.
you created a spark in somebody, so she's
Yeah,
taking it up herself,
there's
which
plenty
is,
of horses out there, so
yeah.
you
Well, it's
know,
about sharing, isn't it? It's not. We all have skills, but we don't own them. We develop them to our individual specifications, but that anybody can learn things.
yeah,
It's what you do with it, and if
I
you're
mean,
sharing, it's such a lovely thing to do, to share. Um, so that must be lovely. You've seen her have an interest. You've shown her some techniques, and she's gone on to qualify.
yeah,
And it doesn't have to be the same module that you're doing or anybody
no,
else is
it doesn't at
doing,
all.
because everything. People will be drawn to whatever they're drawn to, and like you said, there's crossovers. There's always crossovers. Um, and that's a lovely thing to do for somebody. So Sam's on a roll tonight. She's sussed this out, girl.
She's back again.
It's the homework that's important. So she
Yeah,
calls
I
it
always give
homework.
clients homework,
Yeah, she gives her clients homework to do.
but I have to say that I won't say it's rare, but I've got one client who's absolutely lovely, and I set her homework, and she does it religiously, and I go back for another session, and that horse is so much better,
Yeah,
and it's the work that she's done. Um, when I started working with this young lady's horse, it was totally closed down. Um, it took 20 minutes for her to get the horse to move 20 feet,
hmm,
okay?
yeah,
And it was totally closed down and scared of people. And one of the joyous moments was seeing that horse cantering around the field for the first time.
Oh.
Just sheer joy. But it's the work that she and her mum had done
Mm.
more than anything that I can do in 2 hours. I can start the process off. I can teach people what to do, but to have someone actually do that, if you're injured and you go to the doctor or wherever, and then you're sent to a physio. How many people do the physio exercises for more than 2 days?
Probably not many, and I'd probably be one of those.
So to have a client that actually goes at it assiduously and just works at it is wonderful.
So you could definitely tell when you went back that she'd been doing that,
Oh
which
God,
would,
yeah,
which to her would have been. I mean, if somebody said that to me, because I wouldn't be that client probably. If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, "Oh, crikey!" I'd be so pleased. But I'd be pleased that I'm doing something for my horse. So yeah, I can see that. That would be lovely. Here we go. Here we go. Sam's on a roll. You can definitely tell.
I thought I talked a lot.
Yeah, she's talking. No, if I'd have asked Sam to do an interview, she'd have said no. She might change her mind.
If I can do this, Sam, you can.
But it's different when it's your friends because I don't know. Yeah. Oh, it's easier actually doing things with strangers sometimes. But yeah, because I mean I've been out to quite a few years ago. I think I went out. I went out with Sam to watch her work. She was with a client, and I love watching her work. She reminds, like, so when I go see a client, I'm like a different person. It's like something else takes over. When I see Sam work, she's a different person. She's in her element. You can see there's a glow about her. I love watching her work. And I was lucky enough actually to go on a weekend Masterson for owners. I went with Sam.
Yeah.
So I got to have a experience what it's like for you guys, and it was lovely, and I really enjoyed it. But what was nice as well is when I was talking earlier about the hand positions when I'm talking to clients, and my hands naturally fall in a certain position, so I don't consciously think about it. When we was doing the Masterson, there were similar placements, which actually there could be quite a few modules. It would be the same thing, but there were similar placements, and I thought, okay. So that was giving me something else to think about internally where I was working, but I wasn't consciously aware of what I was doing. It's just I go intuitively wherever. The horses would say, I need you to stay here. I need you to go there, because they would walk off and eat the hay. They'd do the relaxation and then they'd wake up and go off. I had one mare and she literally hadn't had a season for, I think it was like a whole year or a year and a half, a couple of years. And I was just finishing off and she wanted me to work round her ovaries. So I said, so I've just got to stay here before I go. And I was working and she literally came to season. I said, oh, she's coming to season. She went, she didn't have seasons. I said, well, she is now. So whatever she knew what she needed, I just needed to give her, I call it plugging into the universal socket. I was just there to facilitate whatever needed to happen. But she knew what needed to happen and she needed a season. And then when I left, I got a really nice message saying, oh my God, she's gone out in the field and she's trotted and cantered up the field. She's really happy because she was a little bit depressed before then. So yeah, I've forgotten why I was talking about that. I don't know what I was talking about. Oh, it's Sam. Yeah, so I love to watch it. I love watching her work, and when the students come, it's nice to see her work as well. But right, Bern, I think unless there's any more questions or you want to mention anything else, thank you so much for agreeing.
Okay.
For coming on tonight, and I know you was really nervous, and I get nervous, as I said to you before we go live. I get nervous because I want it to be a nice experience for you and for anybody that's watching, and to maybe if somebody watches this and thinks, I'd like to experience that, or maybe get somebody out to do my horse, and it doesn't have to be you, but it could be somebody that does the Masterson or Emmett. There's lots of different qualifications out there, lots of different skill sets. But so that's what these interviews are about. It's just telling your story, but from a different perspective sometimes, a different perspective. And
Well,
I think yours is interesting because you weren't horse orientated, and you've gone from working with computers to totally immersing yourself. And that was initiated by Autumn and your promise to take care of her, which you're carrying on for other horses. So I think that's really special, Bern, and it's a lovely thing that you do.
well, if nothing else, one thing we've achieved tonight is that Sam's definitely going to do an interview.
Oh, we'll see if she does. Oh, we could have got a joint one. She could have come on, actually. If she knew how to work it, she could have come and joined us. So here she goes. Oh, she's still here. Loved it. Good luck. So she definitely wants you to come and do some work on Tinks. You can do some work on my scar tissue as well, Bern. My cesarean scar. But ask Nicola if that's okay first.
Bless you. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope it was okay, and I hope people enjoyed it.
No, it's fine. You just spoke from the heart, and that's lovely. That's lovely. So I'm just going to pop you into the other room, and then I'll have a little quick chat with you before we go. So thanks again, Ben, and I'll see you in a little mo.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Sam.
Oh, thanks, Sam, for your comments. I'm glad you came on. And Tracy, thank you, and everybody else, because there's some people I don't know who they are, but that might show up later. So once again, thank you very much for everybody that joined this evening, and for those of you that watch this on replay. I'll post some links. So if you want to get in touch with Bern and ask him any questions, I'm sure he'll get back to you and he'll point you in the right direction. Have a lovely weekend wherever you are in the world, and look after your horses, look after yourself, and stay tuned for the next interview, because I've got quite a few people lined up I'm really excited about. Yes, definitely. I've got Neil Saunders, who's agreed to do an interview. So I'll write a list of those who's gonna come on. Anyway, I'm waffling on. So have a lovely evening, lovely weekend. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I really appreciate your time. It doesn't matter if it's one person watching or 10. You're all very welcome. Take care. Thank you, and bye for now. Bye.